Hello, friends. Welcome back to Feni for the Soul. Today, I have a serious topic for you, and that is about how the banyan tree, the national tree of India, is under threat across Goan villages. So, I have taken a case study in my own village, that is the Cana Benaulim village in South Goa, where recently two large banyan trees were, one was uprooted and the other one was badly cut down. So I filed a RTI application and have got a lot of information and I have invited two very eminent guests on the show who will discuss this issue threadbare. So please sit back and watch this program. Okay, good morning, folks. Welcome back to Feni for the Soul. Today, like I have said in my introduction earlier, we are going to be discussing, this story of two banyan trees in Cana Benaulim village, which sadly have faced the axe. And I have with me two wonderful people: Miguel Braganza, who's been a very senior officer of the government of Goa, agriculture officer, and also the president of the Goa Botanical Society for well over a decade. So welcome, Miguel. That's Miguel from Apsha. And Tallulah D'Silva, my old friend, she is a noted architect in Goa and also a conservationist and a popular newspaper columnist on environmental issues. So thank you, both of you. And I will start off by showing some visuals of these two plots where the banyans have been cut, and then the experts will give their views. So this is that first plot, 7-3D in Cana Benaulim village, where a massive banyan, 7.50 in girth meters, was allowed to be uprooted, completely felled, and I will just pause here and explain what the inspection report of the forest department said. It said it is recommended that tree is matured, some of its prop roots, prop as in Miguel explained just now, the prop, the roots that are the roots on the side, the things that prop up the massive banyan are diseased, resulting in structural instability. Also, it is hindering the growth of coconut trees surrounding it. Hence, the tree may be permitted to be felled, is what the range forest officer South Goa has said. And that's how they've gone and axed this massive 100-year-old banyan for sure. I had seen it, a very healthy tree a few months ago. And that is why I brought the case to light. And of course, I have a whole RTI. What I've read out now is from my RTI report. Miguel, to begin with you, we just, you've seen that, visual just now. And so tell us a little about these prop roots and what do you think about the RFO's report, for such a massive banyan?
Tree basically has its main trunk, which has come from the seed. It has grown big. It has given branches on the side. And from the branches in any of the ficus, you will have hanging roots which come and touch the ground. And once they reach the ground, they increase in size and they prop up the branches. Technically, we actually call them columnar roots because they are like columns to a building. Here, the word used is prop roots, which we normally use in other plants like mangroves and such things. But anyway, the prop root is a side root. Now, if a prop root is diseased and the tree has a girth at breast height of 7.5 meters, which by our formula of pi d, if you remove pi 3.142, then it's a diameter of about 2.5 meters. Now you can imagine a tree where if you stretch your hands out, the tips of your fingers will define the diameter. Such a huge tree, if the prop roots are diseased, even if they actually were, is no cause for cutting off the whole tree. It is like you have gangrene on your finger and it is prescribed that you get euthanasia or be executed. Yeah. So the finger can be amputated and the whole body can survive. And that would be the status of this tree. The report really is surprising if you read it with a technical mind and not just think that, okay, something is disease, so it has to die.
Thank you, Miguel, for that insight. Tallulah, what would you like to add to this, please?
I can only say that, when I started my architecture, I had my dad's very close friend from his village used to give me a lot of insights into traditional practices. And he used to always say that trees like banyan tree and of course coconut trees and certain others, you could not cut. There was a particular relationship with a tree because the tree gives you so much, right? It fulfills all your wishes, most trees. And banyan tree, of course, in this case, there are so many benefits one can derive. And if you purely look at, the ability of a tree to provide us oxygen, it says that in our lifetime, we need about 3 or 4 trees to provide us the oxygen that we need in our lifetime, right? So that means that one tree going, you are removing the support system of a human being or maybe more, right? So one thing is we should not, and today I think that attitude is there. We have this attitude that we are looking at trees as our enemy, whereas a tree is only nurturing us. There's a lovely story, that if you look at a tree, it, uses ordinary soil, minerals from the soil, water and sunlight to produce the most nourishing fruit. And it does not utilize the fruit for itself. It is giving it to all others, whether it's a human or animals, birds. So a tree basically lives for not itself and for others. And I think today, and traditionally, people used to have a reverence for all trees, and trees were not cut for any, I would say before cutting a tree, people would think twice, the whole community would get together and take a decision. But today, I think we have somehow lost this connection with nature and we've become so indifferent, and our systems also are so indifferent that you apply. Now, in this case, if you see, the applicant gave a letter to the forest department, which is supposed to be the entity which is supposed to protect and work for the conservation and protection of trees. And here the department that knows more about trees is the one that is allowing for trees to be cut. And what is the message that you give to people, right? And like Miguel rightly said, if we are going to allow this, then people are going to find it very convenient. We don't have a tree policy in place. That we don't have a tree act. The tree act simply mentions that if it is of risk to life of a human, it may be allowed to be cut. What does that mean? What is this risk to life? I've not seen any tree that has, harmed intentionally a human being. So when I look at this massacre of a banyan tree, that too giving a reason that its prop roots are diseased, it just doesn't make any sense.
Thank you, Tallulah, for that excellent, explanation. I will show a visual of the second plot, which is an adjacent plot 7-3G in Cana Benaulim village. Which is obviously belonging to the same family. And when I did my RTI and my inspection of those forest department documents, this second tree that I'm going to show you was only supposed to be trimmed. But now just see, and the reason is trimmed because it's going to be a threat to the coconut trees. I have never heard of banyan trees being threat to coconut trees of all things, So I'll show you the visual before we discuss it. So this is the other massive banyan which they have trimmed, so-called trimming. You can see they have butchered the banyan. The owners of the property 7-3G Cana Benaulim have butchered this. Forest department has said only trimming is allowed, but this is what they call trimming. And the coconut trees are there in the background, but how is that banyan? How was that a threat? I don't know. So Miguel, again back to you. you've seen the second visual of the trimming that they have done to another second big banyan, possibly a cousin of this, sibling of that earlier one. What do you have to say, Miguel?
In the second visual that you showed us, you can see the prop roots or the columnar roots.
Yeah.
When the branch is cut, you can see one big, thick root coming down to the ground. That's actually the prop root that they talk about. Yeah. And this, if one dies, always there'll be more hanging roots which will become into the prop root. Yeah. It takes the place of the one which may die off. Now, cutting of these trees have been allowed ostensibly for own use. Yes. The reason for permitting it is for own use, especially in 7.3D.
Yeah.
Now, the uses of banyan tree are not for firewood. It makes very heavy smoke. So banyan tree is never used for firewood. Banyan tree is a net oxygen producer even at night. That's how it got its name. Like if anybody Googles or goes to Wikipedia, you find the banyan tree got its name from the banyans sleeping underneath, because they got fresh oxygen underneath it.
Right.
So it's a net oxygen producer even at night, which most trees are not.
Right.
And the other use that you have of the banyan tree in India is for Vadachipuno to tie a string around the tree trunk and pray for the long life of your husband. So our tradition, Indian tradition, makes us preserve the banyan tree in every village. Every wife will have a tree to go around to pray for her husband's long life. And if you are going to cut these trees, then where is that long life going to come from? Now, this tradition is not only for the long life of the husband. If there is an oxygen producer in the village, then the people will be breathing fresher air than we breathe in the cities today. And that is the reason why these trees are to be retained. So wherever they exist, naturally, they have to be maintained. The banyan tree, incidentally, happens to be the only tree in the logo of the Botanical Society of Goa. The banyan tree is the logo. There is nothing else. Only the words are there: protect trees, trees protect. And actually, if what I see in the visuals is exactly the reverse of our logo. The banyan tree is going off and the protection of trees is going off. And with that, our protection also is going off. So that is what I would like to say about this cutting of trees. Of course, each one will have the reason for cutting trees, for clearing it up, for developing, for planting maybe fruit-bearing trees or anything. But the forest conservator and the deputy conservator have a responsibility to conserve. That's how their name comes. Otherwise, it becomes like the Goa Gambling Act, which is supposed to be prevention of gambling, which allows casinos to come. So we are just turning all our laws on their head. The Goa Preservation of Trees Act is used for basically destruction of the trees.
Yes.
And as Tallulah has mentioned, it has been very suitably amended to say that even a passerby can ask for the tree to be cut if he perceives a danger to his life and property. It can be a danger to life and property, but there has to be some defined purpose and defined condition under which it is a danger to life and property. It can be, but there should be some definition to it. Not anybody just perceives that it's a danger and it should be cut. And which is conveniently used by many owners by paying somebody to be the passerby, to complain, and to give the consent.
Correct.
So it becomes very easy that I don't want to cut the tree, but since it is a problem for him, I'm allowing him to cut it.
Right.
So this convenience packaging in the law, we, I think, have to relook at.
Thank you, Miguel, for that very detailed answer. Thank you very much. Tallulah, I had a question for you. While you comment on this second tree that they have well butchered actually instead of trimming, you had mentioned how yesterday in our discussion that roots of a banyan, that is the roots of the banyan are never a threat. To especially to coconut trees. Would you like to comment on that?
So one is, in connection to trimming, this is becoming a practice that we find very common today. A lot of people under the guise of cutting a tree are applying for trimming of trees also, which is actually wrong. And the way the trimming is done is absolutely not right. Trimming means to look at, and this is what I learned from Miguel on one of the tree walks that we did, that trimming also has to be sensitively done. A lot of the local bodies do this regularly before the rains. So you need to look at the tree, you need to look at the structure of the tree, the canopy of the tree, and accordingly trim if it is leaning to one side, if you find there is a imbalance. And it has to be done in consultation with a tree expert, because just anybody cannot go and trim a tree, right? Especially if it's an old tree. So obviously this is, another step of saying that, okay, now we'll trim it so badly that it doesn't have a chance to grow. And then we'll say that, the tree is again further disease, so we can cut it further, If you look at the threat to coconut trees are very resilient, and there is no threat from underground more than from above, because there are a lot of insects that can attack a tree, right? And so from this perspective, it looks like a real sham to say that, the banyan tree is causing harm to the coconut trees. And of course, I often give this example, look at communities that live along the river. And today we are seeing the problems and the impact of indiscriminate development along rivers. Like in Uttarakhand, there are landslides. So nobody, even in Goa, you find people are not, that the river is there, you need, the river supports certain livelihoods. And traditionally, people used to not build their house on the river. It used to be with a setback. There was a certain respect maintained, right? And the same thing is with trees. When you have a large banyan tree, of course, you would leave a certain setback and then build your house or structure. There are lovely examples of, how compound walls and trees have got so well integrated. Even the largest tree, Don Bosco, as an example. Just there's this Oasis petrol pump next to Don Bosco, and there's a lovely, rain tree growing along the compound wall. So trees do not really damage, and many trees which have they don't have a surface, root system. A gulmohar tree has a, like a surface root system. So it tends to spread just along the surface and doesn't allow any other trees to grow. Whereas many other trees, their roots go deep and then they spread, right? So basically with house foundations of we build house foundations of 1 meter. If they are column and beam structure, frame structure in RCC, it goes down to about 1.5 meter. So these are not really affected by tree roots, because tree roots go much deeper. And if you look at the canopy and the structure of the tree, it's sort of like a mirror underground, the same spread you'll find and much deeper underground. That's why trees don't easily fall, correct? However, people are careful. Traditionally, people were careful not to build too close to the tree and leave a certain amount of breathing space. Also, to have a tree means you have an outdoor space where you can sit around, you can, utilize the space for your benefit. Having a banyan tree is an asset, I would say. And even if you want to build on a plot with a large banyan tree, there are a lot of ways in which you can plan leaving the tree intact. So from the perspective of tree, this particular banyan tree that needed to be trimmed, causing harm to the coconut tree, there is no harm that it can cause to the coconut tree, at least structurally. And as Miguel has explained, coconut trees are also resilient, and they don't need to, they grow in very difficult conditions. And again, both trees are to be respected for the benefits they give us, they give for the environment. They're both called Kalpa Vriksha, right? And the tree is like a human being. We have to respect it like a human being, because every part of the tree is used for some kind of purpose, even for construction. And banyan, there are different kinds of banyan. Banyan trees are also used for many, many health benefits. And I'm sure Miguel will be able to highlight on that a little more.
Thank you. Thank you, Tallulah, once again. I want to show you 2 quick videos of the neighborhood where again banyans have been badly butchered. Let me show you that.
This large banyan tree, I'm sure had trimming orders from the forest department. But our local people, this is what they do. They just chop it down beyond recognition. This is what they call trimming. This is also trimming. They cut the whole top off.
You got that gist, I'll show you just one more before we.
So here's another very large banyan tree that must have been again 100 years old, and it provided huge amount of shade to this part of Vaneli. Vaneli is a village next to, between Goa and Benaulim. And in all probability, very flimsy reasons. And the forest department must have asked them to trim it, but this is what trimming people do. They chop it off and they destroy the tree, beyond recognition. This is usually called trimming.
Miguel, coming to you straight away, I wanted to get your view on what is your advice to the forest department, to conserve our banyans in Goa.
Yes, just as they ask for the girth at breast height of trees to be cut, then also they can prescribe girth of the branch maximum or the diameter of the branch that can be cut. So once the maximum girth is prescribed, then anything larger than that, if it's cut, the mark will remain on the tree that's cut, and it can be inspected to see whether there has been a violation of the limit or not. The other part is the forest department gives permissions. How it is executed is never checked. And the amount that you can use is only 600 rupees deposit that you keep for planting of a fresh tree. There should be a inspection after the trimming is executed to say whether it is done as prescribed. And before that, the license itself should prescribe the maximum diameter or girth the branch can be cut, which can be measured by the person who's cutting. Or they can even ask the person to record what girth or what diameter branches they want to cut in their trimming. Because the word trimming can be understood anyway. You can trim it right up till the main trunk and call it trimming because it is not defined. There is nothing in the Goa Preservation of Trees Act to define what exactly is trimming. That is presumed that it is done scientifically, but this presumption need not be true. So the forest department will have to do things. One, define what is trimming and limit what is the maximum girth to be cut, either by the undertaking of the or by their prescription. The permissions should be given only after actual inspection, not from the office to say, okay, whatever you have written is right and go ahead.
Thank you, Miguel, once again for this very detailed answer. Tallulah, you had mentioned yesterday to me that, Kerala state has a unique rule where, when you have plots of land, compulsory planting of X number of trees is mandatory. Can you tell us a little about that and how Goa can emulate this practice?
Yeah. So if you see today, even the example that you gave of that banyan tree next to the chapel being completely, torn down in a way, is because of, the population growing. There is need for more space for people to build, right? And that is what is happening in Goa also, where people are, if a family unit is there, then the children grow up and then they look at becoming nuclear and building a house of their own, right? There's also this pressure of large development coming up, big gated communities coming up. And somehow everybody thinks that, having space has to be built on every empty space. Now, you see, people who are investing in Goa, who are coming in from other metros, also are doing the same. They want to maximize the area in a given plot, and that's why they want to completely clear the land of trees, right? So now, how can this be addressed? If we keep cutting trees like this, we will have, a area where everything is becoming a grey jungle, and everything is becoming concretized, and we are facing climate change now, the impacts of climate change, lot of erosion, lot of landslides, and it's something that all of us should be aware of. So what have states done? If you look at it, Goa has not done anything. If you look at statistics, it says that in the list, we are very low when it comes to losing tree cover, and we have not done anything about it. We can't be growing Australian acacia to show that we are greening our land, right? So Kerala government has done this. They've adopted a few, steps where you address rainwater harvesting and also growing trees. So it says that if you have a plot which is more than 2,000 square feet or 200 square meters, then you have to plant, a certain number of trees. Now, where is that in Goa? I mean, Goa, we are building houses, but as part of the building construction application, when we are granted, construction licenses, this is not mandated. So this is one thing that the Goa government can look at, even making rainwater harvesting, whether you make a freshwater well so that you have water security and, also growing trees. We can go a step further and look at, a combination of growing both kind of trees, wood trees as well as fruit trees. So let's say if you have a plot which is small enough, of 250 square meters or 350 square meters, these are small plots. That means you can, obviously, we will always grow plant, coconut trees, which will give us a lot of resource. But maybe a couple of wood trees like mattu or, the others, of which at the end of its life, let's say after 30 years, you can use the wood, because for building construction, we are also using wood, right? We're making our doors and windows out of wood. There are so many components for which we use wood. Where are we going to replace it? We can't go by what the forest minister is currently saying, that no, we are doing afforestation in Madhya Pradesh for the number of trees that we are losing in Goa. It's the same attitude as saying that we have the forest, right? Why do we need to conserve the trees in our cities? But let us look at best practices. Singapore is doing that. Children are coming to the fore. School children have a campaign, this year in Singapore, where they are planting thousands of trees. Why can't we do the same? And this is in cities. We need to revive our green networks. We need to replace the trees that we have already cut in the cities. We can't get our oxygen only from the forests in Goa or elsewhere.
So finally, I think thank you to both of you. Both of you have added so much value to this discussion, which is a serious topic, and I am hoping that this little video interaction reaches far and wide, and we are able to protect our green cover not only in Goa but pan India and across the world. So thank you very much once again, friends, and we'll catch up very soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.